across the globe, food sustainability of lives is at the front burner. And of course, at the center of it all is where you have food. Now, the standards and quality expected is unique to each country. So what levels of standards is expected? What level of quality is required from the production stage right until it gets to the level of consumption and for other purposes? So that is the essence of today's webinar. And of course, we have our carefully selected panel waiting patiently. They are super ready to dive into the topic immediately. Of course, our topic, once again, to remind us all, is achieving and maintaining food quality and standards from field to fork. So without further ado, I'd like to introduce our moderator and our three panelists for today's webinar. Our moderator for today's webinar is Mr. Segun Okeowo. He's the Chief Executive Officer, Grazak International Limited, United Kingdom. He's into consultancy for food safety and regulatory compliance, food policy creation and assessment, as well as the food and agricultural industry. He renders advisory services to the livestock and dairy industry. Experts in environmental services pollution, food premises planners and builders, and abattoir build and management. Of course, he possesses a Bachelor of Science, honors in Animal Science, Canterbury, and a Master of Science in Environmental Health. His doctorate degree is in view. Mr. Okeowo, it's an honor to have you with us this afternoon.
You're welcome, Mokbe.
Next is Dr. Bukar Ali Usman. He's a member of the National Institute for Policy and Strategic Studies in Jos. He obtained his Doctor of Veterinary Medicine and Master of Veterinary Science at the University of Maiduguri, Nigeria, in 1994 and 2002, respectively. He's attended several courses within and outside the country. Notable among these are public administration and civil management and project management, both at the Galilee International Management Institute in Israel in 2011 and 2012, respectively. He was appointed as a director by the National Agency for Food and Drug Administration and Control, that's NAFDAC, on 4th September 2014 and posted to the Directorate of Veterinary Medicine and Allied Products, Lagos. Dr. Bukar Usman, before his appointment in NAFDAC, was a staff of the Federal Ministry of Agriculture and Natural Resources with the Federal Department of Veterinary and Pest Control Services. While in the Federal Department of Veterinary and Pest Control Services, he served as the National Facilitator Animal Health under the National Food Security Program in Abuja. He started his civil service career with the Borno State Ministry of Agriculture and Natural Resources, and of course has served Borno State government in various capacities, some of which include Provost, College of Agriculture, Maiduguri, Honorable Commissioner, Borno State Executive Council, Permanent Secretary, Ministries of Education and Health, Borno State Civil Service. He's married with children and has some hobbies, internet surfing and reading. Dr. Bukar, thank you so much for joining us this afternoon.
Thank you.
Next to him is Dr. Titilayo Falade. She has over 15 years work experience as a professional in consulting and science. She's currently a food safety research scientist at the International Institute of Tropical Agriculture, IITA, where she works on developing solutions to transform African agriculture. She has experience in managing mycotoxin risks on farm and through the value chain. She works within the plant pathology and AflaSafe team at the IITA to develop solutions to addressing food safety risks. She regularly trains stakeholders in the agricultural sector in addressing food safety risks in several countries within sub-Saharan Africa. Titilayo holds a Bachelor of Science, Master of Science, and doctorate degrees from the University of Ibadan, Imperial College London, and University of Queensland, respectively. Dr. Falade, we are pleased to have you with us this afternoon.
Thank you for having me.
All right. Dr. Bath Ugu is the Deputy Director Operations in Abuja in the Food Codex Department of the Standards Organization of Nigeria. He attended St. Francis College in Benue State and proceeded to the University of Ilorin for his first degree in biochemistry. He has also obtained his Master of Science and doctorate degree in industrial chemistry from the Federal University of Technology, now known as Modibo Adams University of Technology. Dr. Bath Ugu, thank you so much for joining us this afternoon.
Thank you.
My pleasure.
I'd like to enjoin all our participants to please listen attentively, leverage on the information acquired, and make the most of it. Thank you very much. Mr. Okeowo, please.
Thank you very much, Okwe. Dr. Bukka, Dr. Baf, you're welcome. Once again, welcome to the June edition of WAS. There are three key holders involved in this. Ourselves at WAS, and what we want to do, what we want to achieve at WAS is acceleration of food security for our country. I know yourselves as panelists want to put out what you do and what your departments do in various regulatory institutions and the research institute in the case of Dr. Falade. And for our audience, I know you are burning with questions. This is a great opportunity to have this very, very well thought through panel in place. So please ask your questions, and please be kind and be gentle to these gentlemen. So having said that, I want to ensure that everybody has a return in their investment in time and the cost of data today as you join us. So without wasting any time, I would like gentlemen, ladies and gentlemen, to please discuss your roles in your various departments and research institutes in the way that you help to achieve and maintain food quality and standards from field to fork. There are some of us here who are not involved with the field side of things, but in whatever area that your work relates to, please, by all means, starting with Dr. Falade, would you please tell us your role and how your role helps or is helping to achieve and maintain food quality and standards in Nigeria?
Thank you, Mr. Segun Okeowo, and thank you to WAS for organizing this very important webinar at a very crucial time in our history. I also like to thank the panelists for taking time to join this webinar. So as Okwe Ladipo said, I work with the International Institute of Tropical Agriculture, and at IITA, there's a lot of research and partnership involved in ensuring that agricultural solutions are researched upon, developed, and given to the farmers or to the end users. So in my unit specifically, I work with the pathology unit, which deals with plant diseases and also mycotoxins and other food safety related issues. So we conduct research in the agricultural space and in the food safety space and try to develop solutions to those problems and translate those solutions and transfer the solutions and the knowledge to the end users, whether these be farmers or processors or people in the extension services. So particularly, we have one solution which addresses aflatoxin control, and it's a biological solution that has been developed. There are other tools and technologies that we also develop to ensure that food is produced in a safe way and is nutritious, so that we ensure there's food security and nutrition security. That's briefly what we do.
Thank you very much, Dr. Falade. I will move on to Dr. Bukka Usman.
Thank you for the opportunity and good afternoon, everyone. I actually work with NAFDAC as the Director of Veterinary Medicine and Allied Product Directorate. NAFDAC, as maybe some of us are aware, has the mandate of actually working and controlling on issue of food and drugs to ensure that the only safe and wholesome food that is available to the general public. In NAFDAC, we have several directorates. So, but the directorates that are very straight, has a very straight concern about this particular topic. One, Food Safety and Applied Nutrition Directorate, and that directorate is the DEX office of the Codex, which they work very closely and directly with Codex Department of SON. So SON Codex being the DEX office for the country, and the food safety is the one that is in charge of that Codex in NAFDAC. Before 2013, the agency mostly focused on the issue of food safety and quality of maybe finished food only. But as the new concept of farm to fork, the beginning of the food chain, the animal feed, veterinary drugs, agrochemicals, and some other things are very, very essential, because what is being fed at the beginning of the food chain might affect or improve the quality of the final food. So that's how my own directorate was created. To carry out this function, NAFDAC has laboratories across the 6 geopolitical zones. And in each of the laboratory, there are some specialized laboratory, like recently the issue of pesticide residue laboratory to ensure the issue of these pesticide residues, which has been a major cause of rejections of agro and agro allied product being exported out of the country, and other food safety measures. So standard is being set by Standard Organization of Nigeria, but we in NAFDAC, we ensure that whoever that comes to register a product, it must meet that original standard being set. So, and we work closely with the Standard Organization of Nigeria and other relevant agencies to ensure that the safe and wholesome food is available to the general populace. Maybe I can just for now leave it at that. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Usman. I'm going to pass the same question now to Dr. Ugu.
Yeah, thank you very much, the moderator. My colleague in NAFDAC has actually started by talking about standardization, just that like the name connotes Standards Organization of Nigeria. This was a body set up by Decree number 51 of 1971 with subsequent amendments to 2015. And actually, like I said, Standards Organization of Nigeria is ensures that there are up-to-date standards for all products and services. In fact, standards cut across all facets of life. So the job of Standards Organization of Nigeria is not limited to food alone or food codex alone. And that's why the organization is structured such that we have different departments. We have talked about food codex department, which I belong. We have electronics department. We have civil engineering department, mechanical engineering department, textiles and leather department, chemical technology department. And in fact, to properly carry out all these functions, we still have a metrology laboratory, National Metrology Institute in Enugu. And the Standards Organization is also very, very mindful of the fact that testing is very relevant, because without testing, you cannot carry out accurate, you cannot obtain accurate results. So Standards Organization of Nigeria has ensured that we have laboratories across the country. We have Texas and Leather Laboratory in Kaduna. We have Chemical Technology Laboratory in Lagos. We have In fact, one of the biggest laboratories in Africa, which is almost being commissioned now, is still in Lagos. We have civil engineering laboratory, which takes care of all civil-related matters, cement and all whatnot, in Enugu. It does engineering laboratory in Enugu. And so, having developed this structure, having gotten all this standard, what does Standards Organization of Nigeria do? We ensure that standards are available for all these products and services, to ensure that people actually comply with the requirements of this standard. And like I said, what is a standard? A standard is a document arrived through consensus, which specifies all the necessary quality requirements that ensures that compliance with the sections or the requirements of the standard ensures that the product that is coming out will be of quality. It's of quality, that is fit for purpose. Now, coming to our aspect, anyway, we'll go for that, but coming to the aspect of from field to fork, we have developed standards. We have, I would center my discussion on two classes of standards. One, the codes of practices, which are guideline standards, and secondly, the product standards, which are requirement standards for the product. So I will stop at this for now, while questions come, and then I will elaborate and expatiate on what I'm talking about. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Dr. Ugu. Thank you so very, very much. There are two words that stand out when we speak about everything that has to do with life. And those two words are quality and standards. The one area that I have been very concerned, and which a lot of people are concerned in our country, is standards. Poor driving standards, for instance, and the list goes on. We have great standards in food, because I'm involved with food, and I really, really salute and appreciate the work that you guys do. But quality is a very, very crucial thing. Standard is a very, very crucial thing. I think where we are now, would you say to me, Dr. Ugu, that we are somebody sitting down in, say, in Europe will be able to look, who wants to sell something in Nigeria, export something to Nigeria. It's at a point now where he can look on your website and find out what the official controls are in Nigeria regarding their product, and then know step by step what he needs to do, and be able to contact you and say, look, these are my plans. How can you help me? Are we at that point yet?
Yes, we are very much at that point, in the sense that, one, the standards that have been set by, like I told you, through consensus, bringing technical experts together from various fields. You see, people just say, someone set standard. Yes, we set standard, but it's not like a test. Standard is not like a textbook that just one person sits down to write, or two or more. It's a consensus document that brings about technical experts to deliberate, and then pass through a procedure whereby the standard itself comes out and is signed into law. Now, in the process of elaboration of standard, it is not as if the organization is not mindful of what happens in the international community, because that is why in elaborating the standard, references are even made to other international standards, like ISO, like ASO, and other even journals and other scientific publications. So when the standard comes out, it is sort of, bringing the whole the world into like what we can say a global village, because what the practice that is here is the same thing that is happening over there, except there may be some minor differences in values, but that is not to say that the parameter of importance of parameter of quality is not exactly what we are checking here. So I don't know which understand what I'm saying about that. So
yes.
the standards that the sound has set here is also a standard that has a reflection of what happens in other parts of the world. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Dr. Ogu. Thank you. I'm going to go swiftly now. We are going to come back to the issue of the rest of the world knowing what we are capable of, and that we have standards that are set actually at the same level as the rest of the world. In Europe, for instance, and in America, we have the Food Standards Agency. I know about the Food Standards Agency because I worked with that agency for a very long time while living in Europe. Also, every member state in the EC they all have an FSA. And then in Brussels, we have what is called the EFSA that looks after the whole of Europe. In such a way that if you have, there are no BPIs, border points, BIPs, border inspection points within those two countries. Now, we have so many countries bordering us on the right and on the left. Are we working in consonance with those other countries? I'll give you an example. The ECOWAS is a very strong organization that I think is a very well thought through organization that's been set up for West Africa. But what is the relationship of Nigeria with ECOWAS with regards to the French-speaking countries, who I know also have a separate regulatory body? I think I'm going to ask Dr. Ogu that question again because it's more relevant to yourself.
Yeah, thank you very much. Like I said earlier on, Standards Organization of Nigeria is not operating in isolation. And to answer directly what you have said, we have relationship with other national standards within the ECOWAS region, and through what we call, through harmonization of standards. When standards are harmonized, the essence of it is to ensure that what is acceptable, for instance, like in Ghana, is also acceptable here. When you harmonize standards, it's like bringing standards of national from other nations together to make it one and acceptable to us. In fact, there is a program called ECOCHAN, which is ECOWAS Standards Organization, the harmonization program, the ECOCHAN. So that kind of a program is already in place. And that takes care of what you're talking about, to ensure that whatever that's happening elsewhere, like in Ghana, other West African sub-region, within the ECOWAS region, whatever that is happening is also what is happening here. And their products, by going by that, products will be, product quality will be properly monitored.
Thank you, Dr. Ogu. The reason I have asked those two questions directly to yourself is simply because we have online people from Spain, people also from the Netherlands, who I'm sure are going to be looking forward to hear from you directly the questions that's been burning in their hearts. And I really thank you for doing justice to that question. Thank you. I'm moving swiftly now to Dr. Bukar. Dr. Bukar, you recently organized a very successful training seminar for toll feed millers regarding HACCP. Would you please share with us why this was necessary and if this is going to be an ongoing thing?
Thank you. The HACCP before now is only being practiced in food for human, and NAFDAC has been participating in that International Field Regulators meeting, which is normally being held at Atlanta. And there, FAO, they are there, OIE, they also participate there. So now The issue of farm to fork, as we are talking now, it means the safety of the inputs, including the animal feeds. That level of standard of the animal feed, the level of safety, the level of the quality has to be adjusted. Before now, you say it's animal feed, so it wasn't that as strict as in case of the food for human consumption. So it was agreed that, okay, let's now bring this issue of HACCP to the animal feed industry, whereby they should know at what point the critical points that are necessary to actually reduce possible hazards that will finally find itself in the feed, which might affect the health of the animal as well. So it is already a policy. NAFDA have come up with the policy, and we've started sensitizing, because the industry is, compared to the human food industry, the animal feed industry is still growing. So we've already started series of meetings with stakeholders, sensitizing them. Fortunately, you attended one of the workshops that we presented, and it is a continuous basis. Only that for the COVID that has disrupted that thing. But we are now organizing like a trained trainer. We get some experts within some zones, and then through virtual means, at least we want to keep the tempo going, because it's like COVID is not something that might go away within a month or two. So we have to live with it. So therefore, we've now started train the trainer zone by zone. We now teach them the basic steps, the basic requirements of the HACCP, how they will implement in the animal feeds and the animal feed industry. So it is a continuous process. So we maintain the tempo, and it has come to stay. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Osman. Dr. Falade, you are the research scientist amongst us today. You're the one that works in research more than anyone else as it is. Probably Dr. Ugu also do a little bit of research, but myself and Dr. Osman are industry people. We are chasing, regulating, and getting people to do the right thing. So I'm going to ask you this question. As you had Dr. Osman said, they organize HACCP for toll feed millers. And I got to hear about that meeting at the very last minute, and I made sure that I attended when Dr. Osman called me. Do you think, from a research point of view, that the public is properly and well, robustly protected? You need to say this so that these two gentlemen go away and have something to think about regarding the safety of our food. I'll give you an instance. Antibiotic in food animals. When a farmer has a problem, he's not the most enlightened person. He doesn't have a consultant, or has a consultant that he cannot pay. And he or she panics when she begins to lose livestock, probably birds or small or large ruminants. And there are no specialist large ruminants vets in our country who contribute solely on large ruminants per se. I know that quite a few avian specialists. The first thing they do is begin to apply antibiotics. I've also heard, because I manage an abattoir in Lagos, I've also heard people bring cattle to my plant, and they tell me we give them medicine every 15 days. And I ask them, what medicine do you give them? Thinking they probably just give a vitamin and electrolyte. And they turn around, I tell them, could you bring this medicine the next time you do you think, and what do? But you three start today. This is not about me. I'm just here to moderate this. What do you think we can do as a country to resolve this? Because I'm concerned, like all of the panelists that are here, or like yourselves, and today.
You bring a very important issue to the fore. And indeed, NAFDAC and SON are very right to be part of this. Also, tell real story. Area that I am involved in particularly. They consumed a healthy meal to knowledge. What they thought was a healthy meal was hot, it was freshly made, it was from their stores, it was natural, no preservatives and all of that. And still, they succumbed to something that they could not see, they could not smell, they could not taste. Their neighbor in a nearby town, also a 1-month-old baby, that same year died. The youngest casualty to aflatoxicosis in Kenya in 2004. But this child was not fed on maize or groundnut, it was breastfed. But this child was exposed to his mother's milk, and very likely before he was born, because some of these toxic compounds, including aflatoxins, are passed from the mother to the unborn child through the umbilical cord. So food safety is everybody's business. The producer, the distributor, those who sell, those who prepare the food, those who consume the food. All of us are supposed to be regulators in this business. And maybe after I speak, if Okwe is ready, I had wanted us to do a poll, and I wanted to have an awareness of how the audience addresses food safety problems. Just 2 questions. So now, I think food safety begins from the field, as we're saying, from the field to the farmer who has a stressed crop. This year has been quite problematic with rains coming in late, so crops have been stressed because of the border closures due to COVID-19. Farmers are not able to get fertilizers or the right kind of seed. So they have stressed crops. There's nutrient stress because people are worried about how they will commute and whether they would be accosted on the road. So labor is reduced, crops are stressed because of weeds. There's insect pressure, plants are facing all of that. So at the farmer's level, we need to control what is going on. Now we've talked about antibiotics for animal farmers, but also pesticide residues and even natural poisons like we have with aflatoxins. How do we control our fields? Do they have enough moisture? Is there nutrient available because the weeding is done properly? Are the populations of the toxin producers well managed on the field? So there are biological solutions like one that AflaSafe, which IITA has produced. And some of those things are things that we train farmers and teach farmers to do. That's at the field level. Then you go to the distributors. Is the food carried in dirty vans with pests? Is the food stored properly? Is it dried properly? The person selling the food, does the person hurriedly take it inside when rain falls? And then you have food that had been properly dried suddenly getting moist and toxin accumulating in the food. Then the food gets home, and before it gets home, it gets to the processor. So people who make peanut butter, for instance, and they say, oh, we can hide all the rotten grains in this lot. We can put the insect damaged ones in this lot. It will be ground up anyway, nobody will see it. And then you have what you think is a healthy sandwich of peanut butter in the morning, or ogi for breakfast, or tuwo masara and egusi, and you don't know that this has been a combination of all sorts of things: fungal disease on the grains, insect damage on the grains, poorly dried grains, and then it gets the person to prepare food. And because there's a lot of lack in our community, and also lack of awareness, not just lack in terms of resources, but also knowledge. So people wash their grains, they see the floating grains or the insect damaged grains or badly discolored food, and they still include it as what they would cook, not being aware that some of these toxic chemicals are heat stable. You can cook it for however long you want to. Aflatoxins have a very strong ring, and they are heat stable, so you don't get it disintegrated. And then the food is consumed. Then you hear people have liver cancer. You don't understand why. This person did not drink. This person was not exposed to hazardous chemicals as far as they are aware. How did this person become ill? People don't know. Then you see people with renal problems. We find unexplained deaths, not knowing that a lot of this is because of what we have consumed, and also because we are not aware that food safety is everybody's business. The farmer is not aware of what he needs to do to control problems on his field. The processor is not aware that by including discolored grains, he's actually putting poisons in other people's food. The person preparing the food thinks that he or she is saving money by putting the floating and the discolored and the insect damaged grains together with good quality grains. And all of this is going into the diet. And then we find people have low immunity. People particularly who have low immunity succumb to more health stress because of this. And COVID-19 puts an additional pressure because everyone is trying to make sure there's savings, and then there are restrictions on movement. But and so on, but it really is everybody's business. And everybody needs to be involved in ensuring that food is safe, that we have safe food, nutritious food, and that food security is addressed in the West African region, in the continent, and in the country.
Very much.
Because my directorate closely work with Veterinary Council of Nigeria, because they are the one that have the primary mandate of injecting veterinary drugs and the rest. We work very closely with the Federal Department of Veterinary Services to ensure that safe and responsible use of this product is very key. Safe and responsible use of this product is very key. So also issue of pesticides. Safe and responsible use of this product is very key. So these are some of the measures that are talking. So the NAFDAC has also worked on the issue of traceability, because the issue of farm to fork is primarily talking about the issue of traceability. So we are working on that to ensure that stakeholders develop the culture of keeping record of whatever they do. So as a regulator, that's why we very much emphasize the issue of record keeping. Have you done this? Yes. Can we see the record? How have you done the record? So there are international best practices of how to keep record. So traceability is the key. So therefore, we are now working toward ensuring that traceability is actually sustained. Somebody just, the question of reject product that I mentioned, it doesn't mean that the NAFDAC is emphasizing on export. No. We are working on all what Nigerians consume. For those that export, they have their own guideline and then procedures. That's why in all the 36 states of the Federation and FCT, NAFDAC offices are there. So if any person has any concern, can contact any of the NAFDAC offices. The 7 laboratories, 6 of which are already ISO accredited, they mostly deal with, in addition to the drugs, they mostly deal with food. So all these are measures that are there. So antibiotic resistance is very, very important. And NAFDAC is taking very serious measures. Like, for example, food medicated animal feed. Before now, animal feed medicated is being sold. We say no, it's no longer possible this way. Henceforth, any poultry farmer, if there is a need for you to have to medicate your feed and you need it in a commercial quantity, your veterinarian must prescribe, must give the specification that, okay, this farm need to be treated with so antibiotics, and for 5 days, within the 5 days, this much number of kilogram of feed this animal will consume. So therefore, you will now be only allowed to compound that feed for that particular period, for that treatment purpose. So commercial medication of animal feed has been banned. So these are some of the measures we actually put in place. I hope the time will permit so that one can shed more light. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Luka. I would not, it would be insane for anyone to stop yourself or any of you panelists when we discuss about food safety and the issue of antibiotic resistance. So I'm going to give you all the time in the world to discuss this. As a matter of fact, if this is the only thing we discuss today, so be it. There'll be plenty of time to discuss other issues that we have. Well, I'm going to ask Dr. Ugu to come in now. Dr. Ugu, the question I wanted to ask earlier is that of the impact, the contribution to food safety by some. But if you put that at the back of your mind, now, the addition to this question will go for yourself and Dr. Usman. And I'd like Dr. Falade to help us to think this through as well. Would it not be necessary? Because we've been talking about plant and animal. I have an animal science background, so I can speak about more about what is going on in the livestock industry. Do you not think, Dr. Ugu, that and Dr. Usman, that I don't want that thrown at me by ministries of agriculture. I've always been of the opinion that the meat inspection and everything that has to do with food safety regarding food of animal origin should be taken away from the states. I am able to say this because you are both very, very important people in your respective regulatory sectors. The reason I said that is this. If you go to Sokoto State, the way meat is inspected is completely different from what happens in Kaduna. And if you go to Ondo State, it's a different ballgame completely. As a matter of fact, I will share with you that perhaps only two or three states have food law. What this translates to is that I can begin to slaughter cattle in front of my house commercially if I live in a particular state. And what that means, and what will happen is, if you take me to court, if you get to court, there is no law with which to back up whatever I've done. So I'm just going to walk away out of court that day without any problems. Now, do you not think that we need to have either yourself, SON, or NAFDAC, need to have people in the field who are actually monitoring, people in field operations who are actually monitoring day-to-day activities, because it is one thing to have standards, it is one thing to have regulators in place, but it's a different thing when you don't have field operatives who are actually ensuring that, one, they are liaising and putting out new scientific developments. Besides that, they are also ensuring that food safety is adhered to by everyone. Because everybody, when I was putting down the definition of quality, I said, quality is doing the right thing, but it's also uniquely defined by each individual. So what is quality to you might not be quality to me. So in order for us to be working, playing from a level playing field, why don't we have the same set of official controls, the same set of regulatory issues, and the same set of enforcement issues right across Nigeria, harmonized and looked after by either SON or NAFDAC, so that it is one body looking after this?
Okay. Thank you very much. Are you with me?
I'm with you, Doctor.
Thank you very much, our moderator. I want to, first of all, start by clearing, a little impression about what you say, that SON does a little bit of research in addition to what Dr. Titilayo said. And I laugh because basically what SON does in everything that we do here is research. Every standard that is developed, that is approved, was developed through a research process. So that is to tell you that basically what we do in Standards Organization of Nigeria is essentially research all through. Because standards is not just, like I said from the beginning, you have to start gathering technical documents through testing, sampling, analyzing, checking with other reference documents and everything. All this is entailed research, which the Standards Organization of Nigeria is doing. And I'm glad to, in fact, to inform you that presently Samsung has thousands of standards. Last week alone, precisely 168 national standards, including a very prominent product produced in Nigeria, tomato, was developed and signed. It came into circulation. That is to say, it's available for public use. That is to tell you that. Now, coming to the issue of food safety. What is food safety? Just a simple question we can ask ourselves. Nobody wants to consume, like the Titilayo said, nobody wants to consume anything that will lead. Eventually, either you die, or you have cancer, or you have organ failure, or all manners of things. So food safety is that which ensures that the food you consume does not bring about any kind of sickness or whatever, introduction of germs or whatever. And how do we arrive at this? How we arrive at this is through the application of standards. Standards, well, like I will come to what you said about having different practices. But let me come clearly to say standards bring about uniformity of purpose to ensure that everything is orderly. Now, how do we start from the farm to the fork? Let me give a little background using perhaps maybe one of the agricultural produce. Let me use tomato because it's highly consumed and because of other benefits attached to it. Now, you see, the practice, most of the problems we have is as a result of poor practice right from the beginning. And if you cannot start well from the beginning, you cannot end well. Just like the computer slogan, which says baggage in, baggage out. Now, how do we ensure that the pathogen, which is not like Dr. Titler said, the mycotoxins, the impression most people have is that you boil your food and whatever, everything is gotten rid of. It is not in all cases. There are thermophilic microorganism pathogens, which no matter how you boil, and you have to be boiled in such a way that the food too is still left as food for you to consume. Because there are some certain temperatures that you have subjected your product to, and you have lost even the value of the food. So you have to be careful about even destroying, boiling or cooking the product. Now, what has SON done in this regard to ensure that from the beginning to the end, everything is in place? We have, like I said before, we have two types of standards. The codes of practice, that's one, which are actually guidelines. These guideline standards are such that they teach, like I said, they are guides to ensure that there is a good practice from the beginning to the end. And then we have the product standard, the tomato that I mentioned earlier on. Now, we have codes of practices, that is a guideline for planting, harvesting, transportation, processing, transportation, storage. We have these codes of practice, which are guides. Now, before now, you get to some places. Many farmers, most of our farmers don't even know that it's not every land that you are supposed to plant anything. You go to a land that is highly contaminated, maybe has been used as even a refuse dump for waste materials, a land that is highly polluted, that is even the salinity level is so high, it's full of either metallic or microbiological contaminants, so much pathogens. By the time you go to such a place and plant, what do you expect? Your plant materials have already started taking in your wanted substances from the beginning. And once it takes it from the beginning, what happens? It goes to the finished product. So what has Standards Organization done? Like I said, the code of practices is, for example, the code of practice for planting ensures that, one, the land should be suitable. Secondly, the kind of seed that is used should be certified seed, not just any kind of seed. What the advantage of using certified seed are, one, you get the quality of what you want. At the same time, it maximizes this in production output, because there are improved seedlings and seeds. The improved seeds, of course, like the hybrid seeds, ensure that apart from the maximum yield, the quality is greatly enhanced. So you are looking at the quality of the soil from the beginning, the planting, the type of planting, even the mode of handling. We talked about pesticides. Yes, it's good to use pesticides and even herbicides, insecticides. But some farmers, either unintentional or intentionally, still use chemicals which are even banned, which is really very bad. And then such chemicals that are banned were banned for various reasons, because of course they will introduce pathogens, contaminants into the product. So we look at which kind of herbicide that is used, which kind of insecticide that should be applicable, and then which level, the amount of usage, the dosage of this particular pesticide or insecticide that is supposed to be applied. It's not enough to say, okay, I have a dosage of this and you start spraying anyhow like that. It is not supposed to be so. And then such a farm, a farm is supposed to be such that you do not allow free flow of traffic of animals, of all manners of people, bringing all manners of, like a cattle It's most of our farms, and now you see, farmers, cattle rearers parading their this in all true. And most of these animals carry pathogens of various kinds, which of course will transfer into the plant. So the practice has to be gotten right from the beginning. And that is why Standards Organization of Nigeria has put in place codes or practices which are guides. Then you also, from there, you go to the harvesting. Harvesting is so important because if you even start from the beginning, like I said, all these processes, if you go to harvesting, and then if you look at the manner in which some of our farmers even harvest the product, you begin to wonder. Some harvest and then they handling, they store it even by the roadside, maybe to reduce post-harvest losses. In the process of drying, using sun drying, they dry by the roadside. And then you see not only roadside, the handling is so that the produce itself gets contaminated right from due to poor handling. Imagine somebody drying cassava chips or whatever by the roadside with volumes of trailers, all manners of vehicles passing through, introducing all manners of hazardous chemicals. You go there, at the end, the person goes around, meals everything, it becomes food. That cannot be safe food. So the practice has to be gotten right, and the only way to get it right is through the standard. Now, the code of practice for harvesting is there, processing is there, and there's storage, transportation and storage. Imagine tomatoes being transported even alongside with the animals from the north, perhaps to Lagos or to anywhere. How do you ensure the safety? How do you ensure that such produce is wholesome? It can never be. Now, vehicles that are used for carrying animals, carrying all manners of things, are also used for carrying produce, which of course will bring about contamination. And these are bad practices which has been taken care of in these codes of practice that we are talking about. And then at the end, the product itself has the product standard. I told you the codes of practice are guideline standards, which enables farmers to comply, to guide people to ensure that they do the right thing. Then we have the product standard. The product standard are the requirement standards, which specifies all the requirements. We'll be talking about the issue of pathogens, metallic contaminants, microbiological contaminants. All these are stated, and they have levels, maximum levels in the standards. Minimum of that's maximum permissible levels in the standards. You cannot accept food, for instance, that has very high amount of this in aflatoxin. So the standard has made provision for this, that once your product is tested and it goes beyond the acceptable level, that product cannot be said to be safe anymore. And then it is now left for the product, such a product to be rejected. We have competent these people. We have laboratories that are even accredited. We have state offices all over the country that ensure that, yes, you talked about the issue of how do we expect. There is what the Standards Organization of Nigeria is very mindful of what we call the conformity assessment program. What do I mean by conformity assessment program? We talk about that. It actually means inspection, testing, and certification. There is a program which is called MANCA, which is mandatory. MANCA means Mandatory Conformity Assessment Program, MANCA. How do we, before you certify a product, you ensure that that product is inspected either from the farm or from the manufacturer. Even we have standards for this in slaughterhouses too, to ensure that, yes, the practice there is abided by. So in fact, when all these things are complied with, and then the MANCA, before the product is certified to MANCA, that product, of course, you can say is safe for consumption because it has met all the requirements of quality. And what do we say quality is? When a product is fit for the purpose by which it has produced, then we say that product is of quality. And how do we say if the product is safe? The product is safe by complying with the requirements of standard. So the two cannot be easily separated. The product that meets the requirements of standard is safe for consumption. And then when it's certified, you give that assurance that, of course, when you see this sign of NIS logo on a product, that yes, this product has this NIS logo, of course, the product, you cannot be afraid of, say, consuming it for having any harmful bacteria or pathogens or whatever. Thank you. You are looking at, I know time, but I can go further to talk.
Dr. Ugo, I am looking at the time, but I have a lot of questions directed to yourself in particular. That is why I thought, and you are answering some of them because I'm reading some of the questions here. So that is why I thought I would let you carry on.
Okay,
but thank you so much for that. My concern, and this is what I am going to be asking you to go away with and think about, because you are definitely coming back onto this panel because there are lots of questions here, which I know we won't finish in half an hour for you, and questions that I still need to ask you. My primary concern as a Nigerian and for our nation is food safety for everyone, because it is a right of man, it's basic right of man to eat food that hasn't got any contaminant in it. And thank goodness you and Dr. Usman come from the two strongest regulatory organizations regarding our food, Dr. Usman in particular. But I need you to please go away and think about field operations, because it's good enough for us to set all these standards, to have all these regulations. It's not helping us. Look, my company in the UK helps people to bring in food from third country. We are the third country experts. And everything is done here by risk assessment. What we look at is the probability of you doing something wrong. And so we make a note of all of the things that this particular company does anytime they bring stuff here. And so sometimes we may decide not to inspect the whole container when you bring something, because you have very good integrity with us. But time and time again, we've had serious issues that sometimes we wonder how these things got through the BIPs in Nigeria. That is something I would like you to look at. We are not going to be looking at issue of export today, which is primarily at the back of my mind, because I want a situation where very soon Nigeria is taking what is duly Nigeria's beat of the export market for food. You know, we'll come to that at some point. But we are already well over our time. We are 3 minutes over the period that we have. And I still have quite a few questions for Dr. Falade. But let's take the question and answers, because it's important for us to have to let our participants have a return on their investment, the time that they have spent being with us here today. So I'm going to take some of the questions. I'll take some of them live, if they are still live, so that they can ask directly. Those that are not live, I will help to ask them. Let me just start by this gentleman. Let me start with this question. I'll see whether they are still on. They'll introduce themselves and ask this question. Because this has to do with both Dr. Usman and Dr. Ugo. Let's see whether we will still be able to get them live.
Thank you.
Hello.
Hello.
Mr. Shenga, are you there? Okay, I will ask the question. If Nigeria will replace her oil and gas export earnings with agribusiness exports, how do we begin to focus on giving quality food to Nigerians, as this will make quality food export to the rest of the world easy? I'll repeat that question. If Nigeria will replace her oil and gas exports earnings with agribusiness exports, how do we begin to focus on giving quality food to Nigerians, as this will make quality food export to the rest of the world easy? I come from the same school of thought as this gentleman, because the thrust of the work that my consultancy in the UK does is to help third countries bring their food into the UK. And I happen to know that Brazilian exports to the UK in terms of yam and the food of animal origin are so staggering. As a matter of fact, their export as at November last year for beef ran over $10 billion. That is a lot of money. And I want Nigeria to take some of that money. This is going to take a little bit of a time to answer. So I am going to reserve this question for our next panel meeting. But there's a question by this gentleman. Let me see if we can answer it live as well. It says, this gentleman's name is Olashukwu Ojo. And this question is to Dr. Ugu. It says, you need to speak a little bit more about your organization's website, the step-by-step process of bringing food products into Nigeria from Europe. He's saying that you have not said enough regarding the question that I asked you regarding what people can get out of your website. Do you want to do that so that that gentleman is clear about that question?
Yeah, talking about
there are not enough information on your website for somebody bringing stuff from Europe. As you know, a lot of food is imported, and this gentleman is probably a businessman who wants to know what you are able to, what they can glean from your website, or what their partners abroad can glean from your website. Dr. Ugu.
Yes, thank you very much. In our website, I am not, and if we can be more particular, because I think our website is very rich in information. It has every detailed information about processes of importation, even exportation of products from Nigeria. So I don't know if it has made it a blunt this in the equation, but if we were to be specific, but if you cannot get adequate information online, that is why we have offices everywhere. We have offices in all the state offices. In fact, in Lagos alone, we have more than 3 offices. In Port Harcourt, other places, we have offices where somebody can easily get more information. But in our website, if you can be more direct, it can be more specific in question as regards the is it in terms of obtaining, because we have a program called SONCAP. SONCAP is Son Conformity Assessment Program, which importers have to obtain before products are imported into this country. But if it's a food product, we do not, it doesn't need SONCAP, because our sister agency, NAFDAC, handles that aspect. But if you can, like I said, if you can be more specific, let me know.
Okay. I think, Dr. Ugu, I will also suggest that you get your IT people and your content people to look at your website. I've looked at your website as well. It could be a little bit more detailed because everybody does everything online these days. Everybody checks everybody out. The first thing you want to do about anybody is go online. And we won't be doing ourselves justice. We'll be taking money out of our own pockets if somebody who wants to do business with us in our country cannot even get detailed information from our website. So I'm sure we'll go away and all of us will think about that.
Sorry to come in. I want you to know that even in line with the executive orders of the federal government, Standards Organization of Nigeria.
Mr. Moderator, maybe I can.
Hello? Are you with me?
I'm with you. I think Dr. Usman wanted to add something to that.
Okay.
I think maybe we should let Dr. Usman say something now.
Exactly. So we have, our website very open. We have even our toll-free lines where people can easily reach us to get more information. And then, like I said, well, if the person can be more specific, of course, we will provide more information, but we don't know the exact area of information that the person wants.
Okay, Dr. Ogu, I'm going to have to stop you there. I will, we will write that gentleman and see whether they want to expatiate a little bit more. I'm trying to find them online to see whether they want to expand. But I think he probably has looked at your website and is not happy, is not completely happy that he has all the information. And we need to listen to members of the public because we serve them. Dr. Usman, you were going to say something because I need to bring Dr. Falade now. Dr. Usman, are you there? Okay, I have quite a bit of questions that are waiting for us to answer. Dr. Falade, there's an Oladune Okwade asking this question, and I wonder if you can answer them live. It says, thanks to all the panelists. My question is for Dr. Falade. I need further explanation on natural toxins in food.
Okay, so I spoke specifically about mycotoxins, one of the mycotoxins being aflatoxin. And these toxins are produced by a group of fungi. They occur naturally in the environment. However, there are ways of managing crop exposure to these aflatoxins or mycotoxins. So I alluded to the fact that when the crop is stressed, they are more likely to be predisposed to mycotoxins. So this could be insect stress, nutrient stress, water stress, and even biological stress from the preponderance of the kind of aspergilli in the field. So these are natural toxins produced by fungi. That's the simple answer to it. And there are solutions to addressing this, which is primarily addressing the stressors and the organism responsible for producing the mycotoxins or aflatoxins in particular.
Okay. Thank you very much, Dr. Falade. This question is for both Dr. Usman and Dr. Ugu. I think Dr. Usman would take this question. And Dr. Ugu, I wanted to add a footnote to it. There's a huge gap in regulation for farms regarding practices done on the farm. I have spoken about this. To the best of my knowledge, and as a farmer, I have not seen or encountered regulators on farm productions with reference to horticultural produce. What is NAFDAC and SON doing to ensure these sectors of agriculture space is taken care of, especially as these produce are consumed, ingested almost directly, making the various residues even more potent, toxic in the body? We have spoken a little bit about this. And in order for us to be able to take all of the questions that we still have, I think we will go away and think about how to express ourselves a little bit more on the field, as a regulator, as regulators, and see to it that people who are on the field every day actually know that we are there for them and that we're actually looking after what they are doing. I have a suggestion from one of our participants here that says, did you want to say something?
Yes, please. I'm just seeing a follow-up question to the question about what natural toxins are. The person also asked how they can be eliminated or minimized. I only focused on the field, reducing stress. So reducing stress by insects or nutrients or drought, for instance. But also to the consumer stage, there are other things that can be done. One of which is sorting damaged grains. So if you have insect damaged or discolored or broken grains or food material, it could be dried peppers or whatever, anything that has a sign of being damaged by discoloration or insects should be put aside, because most likely those bruises or entry points provide a way for the fungus to enter. And also when we have, in the case of grains, floating grains, those with lower density, and the smaller and the shriveled ones, they tend to accumulate higher levels of toxins. So those are things that can be done at the consumer end. At the processing end, there's also need for sorting, testing, of course, is very critical, and ensuring that the kind of material that is taken into the processing facility is of good quality. Ensuring that the moisture content is low is also important. So whoever has the crop should also dry to the adequate moisture content, typically below 14%. And then also drying, storing the crop under ideal storage conditions, where there's no dampness, no pests, and there's proper aeration. And also there's another thing that is, there's a recent technology for bagging, the triple bags, like the PICS bags, the hermetic storage. Those are ways that these mycotoxins can be managed. I just wanted to quickly address that follow-up question. Thank you.
I have another question or suggestion here by one of our participants who says, "Hi, don't you think?" Bear with me. Somebody's just sent something in, and yeah, it says, "Hi, don't you think SON, referring to Standards Organization of Nigeria, has enough to deal with in terms of substandard non-food products in Nigeria? I'll suggest NAFDAC be in charge of both food standards and safety. Alternatively, form a new department in charge of food safety and standards." Dr. Buka, I think NAFDAC already has a department for food.
We already have a department, that's a Department of Food Safety and Applied Nutrition. There is another directorate of post-marketing surveillance. So the attention is now on the post-marketing surveillance. This post-marketing surveillance, they actually carry samples from supermarkets and the open markets and then analyze. But of course, there is this challenge. Like the NAFDAC as a whole, it has a staff strength of only 2,000. Considering the enormous volume of products we have in the market, and considering over 4,000, about 3,000 kilometers of border where on daily basis things are being smuggled into. So one of the solution, I think, as a way forward, now it's like everything will depend on government. The things has to be done in the issue of public-private partnership, like has to come in. Like in the developed world, for example, you have some certification bodies, you have some independent laboratories which are accredited. They carry out the function on behalf of the government. Unless we reach that level, NAFDAC alone will be difficult to meet up with all these challenges. But this is what is being done. The issue of good agricultural practice, for example, the issue of mandate will come in. Now, primary mandate of NAFDAC is to regulate, process, and semi-processed and processed food. So raw food is outside the mandate of the NAFDAC. So the issue of going to farm, unless if one of the products are not regular, for example, like the fertilizer, the agrochemical, other aspect of farming, the Federal Ministry of Agri is the one that will come in here. So now, FAO in 2015 advocated for multifaceted, multi-scale, multi-approach to farm-to-fork food safety, where all the relevant bodies has to come in. But now, most of us, the issue of legal and fear of litigation by individuals and the issue of mandate and legal is actually a very big challenge. But the way out now is having a meeting whereby we all agree, we all work. If my own mandate stop here, Son's mandate starts, Son should continue. Where Son's mandate stop, wherever other agencies' mandate start, that will continue. Unless we have such coordination for now, and it's easier to get this one than to amend the laws and to say that we only have, now that the federal government is doing merging agencies. So these are some of the challenges we're actually having. But the issue of good agricultural practice is the beginning of food safety, because soil health, agro inputs, and some other aspects are there. So therefore, stakeholder education, farmer education is very, very key in this area. Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you, Dr. Osman. Have just about 9 minutes to go, and there's a question that I need to ask Dr. Falade before we go. But Dr. Osman.
Moderator, I wanted to add a little. Excuse me.
It seems his network.
I and Dr. Osman we've debated about this so many times in the past. So it's not going to be strange to him. I still strongly believe. I'm going to ask you: do you guys speak with each other? Do you share information? Do you? Dr. Usman has spoken about the issue of litigation and all that, which we all understand. But is there a forum where you share information, you speak with one another, you do things together? Because after all, we are all working towards the same goal. That's one. And the other thing is the issue of Dr. Osman and Dr. Ugu. Nigeria has 200 million people, or so we are told. I feel for both of you gentlemen, because you have very little manpower within your reach to help you in delivering official controls. But don't you think it might be a good thing to, I'm not going to ask you to tear down the doors of your government and the politicians in order to get answers, but don't you think, you take for instance, the United Kingdom is a small country of 75 million people. They have 1,500 meat inspectors. 1,500 meat inspectors. And out of this, even then, they still struggle to cover everything. I know that meat inspectors now carry out unannounced visits in meat plants. They carry out unannounced visits in dairy plants. They carry out all of these things. Why don't you think of, some of your staff that sit in the offices and gentlemen who are so very well trained in these things, and get them out, or probably ask the government again to reconsider, because you need these people in order to police the regulations and standards that you require. So having said that, I will leave both of you to think about that, and then we will talk more about these issues during our next meetings. But I'm going to ask Dr. Falade one question before we go.
I want to make a contribution.
Okay, you will get a chance. Let me just ask Dr. Falade about this. Dr. Falade, recently we had COVID-19. We weren't expecting it, but it did happen. COVID-19, this pandemic, people had issues getting fresh food because of the restriction. So fresh food, or all of the food that we eat fresh, couldn't be accessed quite easily. I was in a meeting where FAO's food security director spoke about the same problems. You know, how people had to rely on dried food, grains, and all that. And given the power situation in our country, because people from abroad are listening to this, and we are going to speak well of our country, but we know that we have power issues with our power. What research work is being carried out regarding our local food, in order that, despite the challenges we face every day with issues like COVID-19, what particular research or researches are being carried out to help to preserve food safety and especially food quality as well?
Thank you very much. Can I speak now, Mr. Shegun, moderator?
Yes,
Hello?
Dr. Ogu, could you let Dr. Falade take that, and then you then round up?
I wanted to make some contributions, like you earlier said, you know, in terms of before coming to this particular point.
Okay, Dr. Falade, please bear with me. Dr. Ugu, please go on.
Yeah, thank you very much, Doctor. I will be very brief. Now, first and foremost, let us get something very clear. Standards Organization of Nigeria is the apex standards body that specifies standards for all products, irrespective of whether food, like I said from the beginning, that's why we have different departments. And it's from these standards, the standards that you have ordered, in fact, is the mother that gives birth to other regulations. So the standards have to be available before we even talk about other technical regulations. So we are very mindful of whatever we're doing, but I'm saying this in the interest of the public who do not really understand that standards are different from just mere technical regulations. Standards organization, and at the same time, it's not as if standards organization, like I said, elaborate the standard in isolation. We do it together with jointly in collaboration with sister organizations, other agencies, relevant experts in that particular field. That is just to answer your question, to say whether we even meet to have any interface or whatever. For instance, let me stick, according to use the example of tomato that I gave earlier on. In setting standard for tomato, you discover that NAFDAC officials will be there, CGC will be represented, Minister of Agriculture will be there, industry will be there, even the research lady, Titlayo, maybe she even attended our last meeting, I don't really know, and other technical people who are relevant to that particular field come together. So there is that.
Okay, Dr. Okoko, I'm sorry, sir. I'm going to have to stop you there. I promise you, at our next meeting, I am going to give you the time to speak about this. Dr. Falade, I will keep that question and ask you that question again, because we are going to be living with COVID-19 and the challenges that we are already going through. I want to say a big thank you to you, but it's not my role to say thank you to you. I'm going to ask Mrs. Okpelajipo to thank you on our behalf. But I want to say to all of our participants today online, thank you so very, very much. There's quite a few of you that are still logged on. We really want to thank you. We've left you on the cliffhanger today. I know that there are questions that we haven't even answered at all. But rest assured that we will keep these questions and we will ask them. Dr. Falade, Dr. Osman, Dr. Ugu, thank you so much for coming. We really appreciate you. I'll hand you over to Okpe now.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Okewo.
You're welcome.
Thank you. What a session. Like Mr. Okewo rightly said, for a topic of this nature, it's not exhaustible in one session. Please, I'm going to crave your indulgence. I thank you so much for your patience, all participants. Please, a poll is coming up right now. Dr. Falade mentioned the poll in the course of her answering one of the questions. And as part of the questions will be taken for the polls. Please, we have some 6 questions. It will be very fast. Once we're done with the questions, it's a wrap for the webinar. We thank you so much for joining us. Thank you for being a part of the June edition of the WAS webinar. The poll is on your screen now. Please kindly choose the answers that apply to you. Let me seize this opportunity to also inform you that the July edition of the webinar is coming up. It's a special edition. We're having a special interview with one of the top agribusiness personnel in Nigeria, and he has served internationally as well. So that's just a tip of what is coming in July. So if you're done with this page, please, we'll move to the next one. It's just 6 questions, we're almost done. Thank you for your time, we appreciate you so much. Second slide, please.
It's not connect, and I'm supposed to say polls. So do you think the webinar was useful to you? I wanted to tick yes, and it's not ticking.
Dr. Bat, you are panelists. You are not part of the voting.
You're a panelist.
So it's not. I don't know why it's not. Yes, of course.
Okay.
Dr. Bat, you can't vote. You are a panelist.
Okay. Oh, okay. Well.
Admin, I can get a message here that they can't see the polls. Please, let's make it visible to all participants.
Okay.
Yes, that's question 1 and 2 on the screen. Question 3 and 4 is coming up right about now. Please hold on, it could be a slight hitch. Admin, please, let's move to the next slide.
Anyway, I've asked the second vice president to monitor the project.
Hello, admin. I'm okay, whilst we wait, okay. We have, admin, we have question 1 and 2 on the screen, please. Let's proceed to the next questions. Please, to all our participants that sent in questions, please, if you sent in a question and we were unable to take it due to paucity of time, please kindly send in your email. Kindly you're sending your email now so that we can send you the responses appropriately, please. Admin, the next set of questions is not showing yet, please. We have the first batch of questions here. Okay, can we all see the first and second question? Someone told me that, someone said they can't see the questions.
No, they said, no, we, the panelists, are not supposed to vote. We are not supposed to vote. That's why it was.
Okay. Okay, I'm told the slides are going on. Yes, okay. I think we should be done by now with the polls. Yes, I can see responses here. Thank you, Mr. Okade. Thank you. You can see the responses here. Let's give a few seconds and then we can take it off the screen. Thank you, Mr. Nelly Huche. Thank you so much for participating, everyone. Okay, I think by now we are done with the polls. We thank you so much for your time. Mr. Okeowo, thank you so much for moderating the session. Dr. Buka Usman, I know you are behind, the time is, you are almost out of the office as we speak. Thank you so much for being a part of today's webinar. Dr. Bath, thank you so much, sir. It's a pleasure to have you with us.
My pleasure.
To all our participants, thank you for sticking with us. We hope to have you for the July edition. Of course, the conversations continue. For us at the West Africa Agribusiness Show, it's have a good evening, please. Thank you all.
Thank you. Thank you, Okwe. Dr. Falade, Dr. Usman, Dr. Ugu, thank you so much. Hope to see you guys soon.
Thank you. Very well.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Honestly, yeah. I think
next time, people are sending messages, and you could also be replying to some of these messages.
replying from here?
Yes.
Okay. Everybody was not aware of that.